Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects. Those of you all that know me, once again, you know it's one of my favorite subjects. We're going to travel down Tuscaloosa and go down those roads and talk about some past of Alabama Crimson Tide football. So if you like the video today, please come on in and share. Today with me is one of my dear friends and former players. One of his biggest things that I admire about him is he had a chance to play for the legendary Paul Bear Bryant his last year, coaching on the collegiate level at University of Alabama. My good friend, Coach Venson Elder. How you doing, Coach? It's great to see you.
Doing great, Coach. Hello, everybody. How y'all doing?
Coach, when it's all said and done, everybody talks about why yours truly, Kevin Bull Jones, loves Alabama Crimson Tide football. It's just because of the history of the success in the program. But you and I share a commonality that's a little different, both coming from DeKalb County and playing high school football here in the Metro Atlanta area. I got a chance to watch you play and move to the collegiate level, and it's just a joy to have you here. I want to talk about your time playing for Coach Bear Bryant. I know even though it was just 1 year, the last year he was alive, but talk with us about the history of how you went through that recruiting process. And I want to just talk about it again because we just want to venture down that road again and just talk about what you went through in your journey to end up in Tuscaloosa.
Okay, Coach. I hope y'all can hear me clearly because Coach real bad when you're talking, so I'm not exactly sure what you asked. But based on what we talked about last time, the recruiting process my senior year was very hectic. With everybody in the country coming in, wanting you to come to their school. And the rules back then, there was really not many rules at all. They could come to your house. They could come to the school. They can come to the movie theater. Don't care wherever you at, they could come. There was no regulations back then telling them you can only come on these days, or you can't go to the person's house, or you can't see this person this many times. I mean, a couple of times I called myself sneaking around, the school to get to my class. I go through the outside route, through the outdoors and go through the back door to come back in and get in my class, trying to avoid the coaches from Auburn, and they were sitting in the classroom. So recruiting was a whole nother beast back then. I was being recruited by Coach Sylvester Croom from the University of Alabama, and that was really a big thing to me because he was a former player at Alabama and had played for Coach Bryant. And the recruiting process was going good until I started listening to some of the other colleges. The coaches telling me, like, Coach, we want you to come here. Our head coach has been there and sit down with your family and ate dinner with you. We really showing the interest that we're serious about bringing you in. And when I tell them that Alabama was, at the top of my list, and they said, well, has Coach Bryant came to visit you at home yet? And I was like, no, he hadn't came yet, but he's probably going to come. They said, well, the reason why he hadn't came because he don't go out of state to visit athletes anymore. And when they told me that, I started thinking about it. And sure enough, he had never, said that he was coming to see me or anything of that nature. And I kind of, moved some other schools up, mainly the University of Miami. I went on and committed to them. And after I did that, Coach Croom called me and was asking me, Venson, what's the problem? We thought you was coming here. And I said, I thought so too, Coach, but I don't think y'all as serious as y'all say you were about bringing me to Alabama. And he asked me why I said that. And then that's when I, shared with him some of the things that other schools was telling me at the time. And he was like, well, is that it? I said, yes, sir, that's it. And he said, well, good luck to you. And, he hung up the phone. And I thought that was the end of that. And I thought I was going to the University of Miami. And then a few weeks before signing day, I came home from basketball practice and I pulled on the street. And I mean, it's like TV cameras, trucks, and everything all over the street. You know, I could barely get up the street. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? So when I got to the house, they was at my house. So with me knowing signing one for another couple of weeks, I was a little confused. But I walked in the house and a little kid, a young man was sitting in the dining room named John Pemberton from Woodward Academy.
Okay.
And I spoke to him. I had seen him before on some recruiting trips. And I was like, what's up, man? He said, well, Coach Bryant, they're in there about to have dinner, eat with your parents. And I walked in, and Coach Bryant spoke. You know, I spoke to him, and he said, Venson, we want you at Alabama. And I said, yes, sir. And that's where it all started.
Well, Vincent, back in those days, there was a lot of good players in Metro Atlanta, specifically DeKalb County. That was just a hotbed of football talent and other sports as well back then. You know, but, you know, my biggest thing coming a couple years behind you at Redan High School, I got a chance at a track meet to see you. And I thought, and you know, I'm going to go ahead and call it out, you know, I thought you were the biggest human being that I'd ever seen on the track running 100 meters. It was now I say you were the biggest thing. Of course, you know, my claim to fame, my running joke is I always say you were 6'2", 235 running against guys 155 pounds. And I know you're going to tell me that that wasn't the case, but talk about that because you were a two-sport athlete. And that was like our idol thing back in the day to see guys that big. You know, everybody that played football didn't run track back then. So you did both.
Well, it all depends on your coaching staff.
Okay.
You know, growing up, you know, I was always over the weight class for playing in the park. You know, with at my age, you know, I
Okay.
never could make the weight or whatever weight was back then. I think 125 and 135 and stuff like that. Well, I didn't play in the park football, but I
Right.
always played baseball from when I was 6 years. So baseball was actually my sport. Baseball and basketball were my sports. But when I got to high school, the coaches said that you're not playing baseball. You got to run track. If you're gonna play football, you're gonna run track. And so I was like, okay, you know, you did what the coaches said back then. So I ended up going from football to basketball to track. So once track came around, you know, hey, it was on and popping. We get out there, and you know they taught us how to run, and we didn't have rubber tracks back then. We was on that concrete track with those spikes on. You know, we just having a good time. You know, and then like I said, it was just like being outside during the summer. You know, when you get up with your friends, you want to see who's faster than who. So it was just an organized game at that time, and we just had fun with it.
Well, I know this much for a fact. I remember when you signed with Bama, and you know, your first year there, you know, being a, you know, to me, knowing that at Towers High School you played both defense and offense, you was running back, and then you were linebacker. To get to Bama and see all those running backs there, because when your first year there, you came in there, you did play running back, but then you switched over to linebacker. Talk about when you first got there, that first 2-3 weeks on campus, and what the adjustment was like for you.
Well, the reason why I didn't go to Georgia is because they was telling me I could play fullback and I could come down there and block for Herschel. And I was like, I'm not coming down there to block for Herschel, you
Wow.
know. And the fullback that was there already, Stewart, you know, he had pulled me aside on the recruiting trip, and he was like, "Hey, man, don't come down here, man." He said, "Go somewhere else." You know, he said, "I'm down here. I'm every day. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm getting no recognition." You know, so he told me, he said, "Man, don't come down here." You know, but Coach Dooley and Bill Lewis was telling me that they was going to let me play linebacker because that's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
But at the time, Ray Goff was the recruiting coordinator, and he just kept telling me, "Yeah, you're gonna come down here and play fullback." And I'm looking at him like, "No, I don't want to play fullback." So that was the big thing with me in Georgia. You know, if it wasn't for that, I probably would have ended up going to Georgia. You know, that's the hometown school, and
Right.
you know, a lot of my friends was going there and stuff like that. But I just couldn't bear that. I did not want to play fullback. And so Alabama was telling me, you know, you're going to come in, you're going to play linebacker. And I'm like, cool, that's what I want to do. So when I got there, that's where they put me at linebacker. And as a freshman, you know, you're trying to get on the travel squad. You ain't even thinking about playing. You just want to get on the travel squad.
Right.
So at Alabama, they was 3 deep, you know. You had your first team, then you had your first team second guy,
Right.
then you had your second team first guy, your second team second guy, then you had the third team first guy and the third team second guy. If you in that group, you traveling.
You traveling.
So my thing was to get in one of the groups, you know. So I'm busting my tail every day, you know, in the weight room. When we conditioning, everything. Every time I went out on there, I said, I got to get better. That's what I would tell myself to motivate myself. I got to get better today. I got to get better today. That's all I would say to myself. And I had worked myself all the way up to first team number 2 guy behind Mike Pitts, who was an All-American.
All-American.
You know, I was happy to death. I don't call home. I don't told my parents. You know, everything was going good. And you know, I was excited. And then one day I get a call from Coach Bryant to come to his office. And I didn't know what had happened. Because, you know, I was kind of a wild boy back then. He might have heard something. And, you know, I'm about to get in trouble. You know, I'm scared going up in there. What do you know? How he find out? Well, you know, I'm just all kind of stuff going through my mind. So when I get in there, he said, Venson, we're going to have to move you to fullback. And I'm like, Coach. I said, nah, Coach, you told me I could play linebacker. He said, I understand that, but we don't have 3 fullbacks that's out for the season. You know, it's only going to be you, Ricky Moore, and Craig Turner. That's all we got left. I said, we need you fullback. So I said, yes, sir, man. I left, man, walked back over to the dorm. I'm crying all the way over there. I get in my dorm room. I call my mom, told my mom, come get me. I'm ready to go. You know, she's like, boy, you don't shut up. She said, do what the coach told you to do. He said, he's going to move you back to linebacker, but they need you at fullback right now. So you play fullback. Right. So that's what I did. Got a chance to play every game as a freshman at fullback. Awesome. So, you know, I end up starting to like it a little bit and having fun. Because when you're traveling with Alabama, man, that's big time. You know, when you on that bus and you leave at Bryan Hall, which was our dorm at that time, and you see all your buddies, you know, they sitting back, watching the bus leave and stuff like that, and you on that bus going to the airport, that was big time.
Coach, coming from Metro Atlanta back in the early 80s. And, you know, with everything going on in Metro Atlanta and the Deep South, then you drive down to Tuscaloosa, go in as a freshman, get a chance to play. You know, when you finally switched over to linebacker, you got on that defensive side of the football. You got a chance to play with some pretty good guys. Some guys that you got a chance to play with
Coach,
some guys
I really can't get up really bad.
Tell me about some of those guys you played with on the defensive side of the football.
I can't hear you, Coach. I can't understand what you're saying.
Tell me about some of those guys you played with on the defensive side of the football. Any guys on the defense side of football?
Coach, I can't hear none of you guys.
Well, I tell you.
Can you hear me, Coach Elder? You hear me, Coach Elder?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Definitely can hear you. Well, Coach Elder, I'm glad you had some time to talk to us about just those times you first got out there, University of Alabama, coming from Metro Atlanta. Sure, that was pretty tough. Of course,
Coach,
all
I
your
can't
high
hear
school.
you guys.
Okay, well, we'll come back to you in a minute. We get a chance to fix that. In the meantime, we want to thank you for being here with us. We are 100 yards of football. Thank you for spending time with us.